when you have conversations with people who are very, very loyal, truly loyal to their bank, it always starts with the bank did something wrong.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of Banking on Composable. I'm Cassandra Stumer. In this series, we're just going to sit down with interesting people in banking tech to chat about composable banking and the future of financial services. And why composable, you may ask? Well, banks, credit unions, financial institutions of all kinds, we're just at this interesting point in time, right? We need to keep up with consumer expectations that are always changing, an expanding sea of fintech vendors, just unpredictable macroeconomic conditions, right? Really fun stuff. Plus, not to mention, we've got Apple and other big techs just like nipping at our ankles. How do we keep up with all of it? How do we get ahead of it? Not so juicy spoiler alert here, but we believe that composable might be the answer. But what is composable, right? Well, it's a technology and transformation approach that's been gaining a lot of traction across industries. It's a building block style approach that allows you to adapt quickly. It's kind of like moving from working with concrete to working with Legos. And a fully Lego bank could be our future, just like that one behind me. But the thing is, composable banking represents just this major paradigm shift from the way today's financial institutions operate. We're slowly moving away from these monolithic systems to modular, adaptable, and open platforms. And how do we prepare for that shift? And what does it mean for the industry? What does it mean for your customers, for consumers? And in this series, those are the type of questions that we hope to tackle. This episode, we're joined by fintech influencer Alex Jimenez. Join us as we discuss some common barriers to digital transformation. We talk about winning consumer experiences and all things composable. Hope you enjoy. Alex, thank you so much for joining us for our first episode of Banking on Composable. Why don't we just start with a little bit of your background? You know, you get listed constantly as an industry influencer.
Yes.
Yeah, and can you tell us a bit about like how you got that moniker?
In November of 2008, I was at a Finovate conference, and I was watching people live stream the conference on Twitter. And so I downloaded the Twitter app, and I started doing the same thing.
Wow.
A few months later, I got listed as a thought leader in fintech. Now, you know, this is pretty early on in the world of fintech, so there were many people who were talking about fintech on Twitter. So suddenly I was the thought leader. People were asking me to come and do presentations and go to conferences, be at panels, write articles and so on, and it just sort of snowballed. So I never set out to do that, but now it's a thing, so.
This is great, yeah. Yes. So we're here today, obviously, to talk about composable as a concept. Yep. And, you know, you can compose a letter or a symphony, but that's not quite what we're on about. Now, what does composable mean to you, just in simple terms? Yeah,
I like the idea of composable being applied beyond just composable architecture and technology, right? But it's the same idea. So, you know, back several years ago when I worked at Zions Bancorp, one of the things that we did is an exercise looking at all the technology that we had, right? And all the redundant technology that we had. So, you know, we had 6 different ways to do digital signatures, and then we also were trying to figure out, well, do we really need six of them, right? No, we don't. We only need one. Well, the problem is that if we pick DocuSign, just as an example, DocuSign didn't work with this platform or that platform, right? The only way you could do that is having one technology that can do that, as opposed to trying to make, you know, 6 technologies working together. So if you are able to just take that capability and easily plug it in to whatever other technology you have, you know, you have that idea of a composable technology where you don't have redundancy and everything works together, and you know, you have this Lego piece that works with all the other Lego pieces. So I like that idea, and I will be stealing it from you guys.
Oh, great, great. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. And I want to talk a little bit more. You know, you've helped so many organizations. That's where we met too, and helping different institutions on their digital transformation journey, from the strategy phase all the way to implementation. Is there like a common thread or challenge that you've observed that arises between them all?
I think you know this answer. The threat is leadership. The threat is, the whole thing of, if you're going to transform, you need to have culture, and culture has to change.
Right.
But culture cannot change on its own. It's got to be someone leading that transformation. So you can apply all kinds of technology to something, but if you don't have the hearts and minds of the people, you're not going to be able to transform. And you can only do that if you have leaders that really truly believe in that.
You've always touched on in quite a few different interviews just this concept of, in general, customers and not really feeling a sense of loyalty to their financial institution or just a sense of being valued. Are there other ways you're seeing anyone, foster this sense of loyalty with customers? Any great examples out in the field of that happening?
It's interesting because when you have conversations with people who are very, very loyal, truly loyal to their bank, it always starts with the bank did something wrong. But they were really great at solving the issue, and then after that, these people became true raving fans of the bank.
Right.
For those of us that have history with a bank, but it's been pretty much smooth sailing, we may never think of really having a relationship with that bank, right? If my paycheck is automatically deposited to the bank, and all my bill payments are done automatically, and I don't really do a lot with the bank. It's all in the background, and I don't feel like I have a relationship. If you have 80% of your customers that are on automatic, a bank is no different from a utility company. So
right, and it kind of ties back into that personalization element. When we talk about composability, for example, when someone's getting a product, for example, how can that tie into creating a deeper relationship when you're starting the relationship?
I look at a lot of banks' digital experiences,
right,
and find just a huge disparity in those digital experiences. You might go to a website that's really well designed, and it's really great, and it's got all this great content, and it's got all these beautiful pictures, and then you sign on to your digital banking and you get a different experience. And then you want to open another checking account, but you can't do that within digital banking because that's not a function that you have in there. You have to go out to the website, and then you click on open an account, and you go to a very different experience. It just looks like the Frankenstein of digital experiences. So in my mind, if we have real true composability, that you would have an experience that's seamless throughout, whether you're doing an app, whether you are on the browser and you're in the authenticated or an unauthenticated space, whether you're applying for an account. It doesn't matter what kind of account you're applying, it all looks and feels the same. But go to any bank, and you're not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to do it piecemeal, and you're going to have to enter all the information over and over again.
Right, and what's the blocker, the primary blocker? Would you feel it's a technology blocker that is harpering us from offering that level of experience?
There's a bunch of those. There's a bunch of things, but really a lot of that comes from just legacy of how banks have used technology. It used to be that you try to pick the best vendor for each thing, right? Which doesn't always work well. So that's the way that we have managed technology for a long, long time in banking. So the idea of simplifying that, the idea of saying, we're going to leverage APIs, the idea of being able to have these Lego pieces work together is something that is not, it's not what we usually think of how we work with vendors.
How do you see the concept of Composable impacting or changing financial services the next, say, like 5-10 years, just at the most broad level?
Yeah. When we started talking about composable, I kind of couldn't help but draw a parallel to agile. It's not the same thing, but those can work together. And it's going to take a long time to get an industry that's been functioning the same way for a long time, but you start seeing it already, right? You start seeing some of these pieces, and you guys at Blend are pushing that idea. I think, like anything in banking, it's going to be a couple of decades until you actually see it going throughout the industry. But there's some organizations that are already starting to think of it this way, right? They're starting to think of how we put all these things together and put an overall, all-encompassing strategy that we're going to move forward. I see that happening more, and it's not always the big guys. There's actually some of the big guys are doing a good job there.
Any examples come to mind?
I can think of a couple of banks, a couple of regionals that I think are doing really good things. Key Bank is one.
Sure.
Fifth Third is another one. I won't say the ones that I don't think are there yet, but those two I think are examples of big organizations that are trying to do and are going down that path.
What excites you most about what's coming up in the banking industry, maybe in the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, I think what's exciting is that more organizations are thinking about how they're going to change their business model. They're understanding the customer is key, and changing experiences and improving experiences is key. So it used to be back when I was working with the CBA that there were a handful of banks that were talking about what digital was going to do. Now it's a significant bigger number of banks and credit unions that are doing it. There are some credit unions that are doing some terrific work out there, and I see them winning the challenge in building new experiences. So that's exciting.
So thank you so much, Alex, for joining us. We have a fun segment here called Compose Yourself. What do you do after a long day of transforming the future of financial services, or just a long day of the typical drudgery? Yep. How do you compose yourself? How do you take a day for yourself to relax, or just get yourself together? What do you do?
Yeah, I don't do it after the day. I do it before the day, meaning that I wake up early in the morning and go for a run. I do a lot of that. Both my wife and I are doing marathons.
Wow.
We just did our 10th marathon. We have a
my
couple more
gosh.
in our schedule. So we just love running, and it's both physically feels good, but mentally it really helps a lot.
Yeah, get that runner's high, and
yes,
that's great. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much again, Alex, for being here with us today. Appreciate it. Again, a big thank you to Alex for joining us. We know you might have your own questions on composable banking or just an opinion on the future of financial services. If so, we'd love to hear it. Please leave questions in the comments down below. We'll make sure to address it in the next episode. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you want to see more content like this, please make sure to leave us a like, subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out. Thanks so much, and see you next time.